Alright, hello everyone and welcome to today's lesson. In today's lesson, we're actually going to discuss our first web application. So let's go ahead and get Visual Studio started here so that we can check this out. So this project type is very popular in today's job markets. You're going to see tons of advertisements for it. This project type also behaves similarly to another extremely popular project type, which we will likely discuss in a future lesson. But for now, let's get started, okay? So with today, we're going to create our first MVC application. MVC stands for Model View Controller, which are the specific components that make up our application. Let's talk about what each of those pieces represent and press forward. The first component we're going to talk about today is something that everyone should already understand right now. We've had a lot of lessons that talked about this. I think pretty much almost every lesson. The model, okay. So the model is going to sound different, but it's the same stuff, different name. The model is nothing more than a plain old class that defines what we're going to see on a web page. As an example, if the web page was for logging in, we might expect to see a login view model, which has two properties: a string of username and a string of password. Okay. Don't bog yourself down if this doesn't make sense right now, because we'll be discussing some of this stuff here. The second component we're going to talk about is the most difficult of the three, the controller, and that's probably where we're going to spend the majority of our lesson today. However, the good news is that you should mostly be comfortable with what this is, as you've worked with similar concepts in the past. A controller is it's like a collection of methods, kind of like how on the calculator application we had add, subtract, multiply, and divide as different methods. But these collections of methods define the specific pages and actions of the MVC application, and they're all contained within a class, okay? And you'll see that a little bit. In short, a controller is a class that has a collection of methods that describe what all can be seen at a URL route. And this will begin to make more sense as you work as we work more and more with MVC, and you get to see a lot of the inner workings here. Don't be concerned if you don't immediately grasp what is happening behind the scenes. Okay, that's probably the most important thing to take away from MVC right now, is because there's a lot of stuff you're going to be like, well, why does this happen? Reach out to me and I'll explain it to you. But for now, if you don't understand something, it's really important that you kind of view it as like something magical for now, and we'll explain how that magic works later. The reason we're not going to get into it is because it's not terribly important to creating an application right now, and you're going to spend a massive amount of time trying to understand these mundane concepts behind, the way that routing works, for example. And these are all just intrinsically ways that the framework behaves differently behind the scenes. I mean, learning how MVC works with IIS is going to eat up so much of our time. So it's just safe right now to think of a lot of these concepts as magical. And you'll see why I am taking some time to talk about this right now. It's going to be too much of an investment for too little of a reward. Okay, so we covered model and we covered controller, and the last letter is V, which stands for view. Okay, the last component we're going to talk about is pretty simple if you've created web pages in the past: the view. The view is nothing more than basic HTML that is married with an MVC engine. That engine in .NET happens to be Razor, that enables you to do programmatic things with the HTML. Don't be concerned with the Razor part. Okay, we're gonna discuss and describe what that means. If you understand nothing other than the HTML part of what I just said, that's fine. Okay. You can also think of the Razor part as magic for now, and we can elaborate what that really means after you get familiar with MVC. Okay. So let's play around with an MVC application a little bit, and let's see how some of these things interact. Okay. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go to New Project. All right, and we're gonna go to Web. All right, and we're going to select the ASP.NET web application with .NET Framework. Don't worry about .NET Core, okay? And let's just call this test application, okay? Not really important what the name is. Okay, so in here, you're going to see all the templates that we have available, okay? You're going to see web forms, which is the old way. You don't really want to do anything with that. You're going to see MVC. You're going to see web API. And these are the two, like I said earlier, that are that behave similarly. You're going to see a single page application, which we'll discuss way down the road. And then your Azure services. So now we're just going to select an MVC application for the training portion. But just so you know, in the future, I like just clicking empty and checking MVC. Okay, and you'll see why here in a second. Okay. Um, don't choose the hosted in the cloud. You know, that's terrible. Um, and you don't have to add unit tests. Okay, just make sure that you're clicking this and checking everything else. Okay, so what this should do is this should ship the project with the standard MVC scaffolding, which is going to allow for us to do this lesson. This is going to be more of an interactive lesson, and you guys won't have to code anything. But this is going to assist you on creating your own MVC application. Okay, so as you can see, one of the nice things that it does here is it adds a bunch of references. It's going to pull stuff down with, you know, NuGet and everything. And it already created us some models. It already created us some views. And it already created us some controllers. So let's take a look at how some of this stuff works. Okay, so we're just going to press play. All right, and I'm going to talk to you about each piece. And this is why, just so you know too, you're going to see here in a second, why I choose to have an empty MVC application, because I don't want the standard shit shipped in with, you know, all of my stuff, because, you know, some of my applications I'm working on don't require having authentication. Okay, thanks, got it. Okay, so as you can see right here, we have a .NET application. I believe it ships with Bootstrap, and it does. So it is responsive. If you'll notice, based off of the viewport, the website layout will change. Okay, that's really interesting, and we'll get into responsive design here in a little bit. Okay, so let's click on some of these. Okay, so home. I'll show this again. Thanks, got it. It's just taking us to the standard route. About, home/about. This is your about page. Contact, your contact page. Okay, so let's go to about here. Okay, let's make a change on home/about. So how we do that is if we want to change the HTML, go to home, about.cshtml. This is the about page. Div, oops. Hello everyone, I just made a change. Okay. Now you don't have to rebuild generally whenever you make HTML changes, but I do, just because sometimes weird stuff happens with caching. Okay, so as you can see right here, my changes are now reflected in the view, the about view. Okay, so let's see how that gets tied together. So let's look at the, let's look at the two parts of the route here. Oh, gotta go back here. Home, about, okay? So the first part of the route right here, this is telling IIS what controller it needs to look for. That controller is the home controller. So if we go into this controllers folder, we're going to find home. Let's open this up. The second part of this route is about. It's the action. That's what that's called here. Let's go into the application. So in the home controller, there should be a method called about. Okay? And as you can see here, it's passing something into the view bag. Don't be concerned with what the view bag is, because it's kind of actually hacky. That we can change. So let's stop our application. Your application description page. So as you can see right here, I made a quick change to the HTML. Sometimes you're going to want to do stuff from the server. Okay. For example, here we go. yeah, do while I is less than 3, actually, yeah. I plus plus, this is a for loop, and then string message equal to string, wait, actually, okay, and then let's take message and set it equal to the previous message plus, actually, use string.format. And then let's add i.toString. So what that's doing here is we're just using a loop to add this plus whatever this variable is. So it's going to be 0, 1, 2, and then that should be it. So, and then let's set, instead of viewBag.message, let's set it equal to our message variable. This is just simulating doing logic on the back end. There's no real reason why you would ever do this on any application. Okay. Let's see how this works now. As you can see, we got the custom description, and then we got custom description 0, and then we got custom description 1, we got custom description 2. Okay, so as you can see, in one area, I made a change on the view, and that propagated over. And then in another one, I actually made the change in the controller, which allowed for me to do programmatic things, okay? And that's why this is really important. Because you'll be able to do some really awesome things programmatically. Rich specifically, like for your, the game application that you talked about on like a type Zork type game on a web page. This is how you could do some of this, is by having this sort of logic in here. You can check to see maybe what they entered in on a previous page, and then depending on that, you can change the description here, okay? You can put like if statements and stuff in there. Okay, so let's talk about models real quick, okay? Because we haven't really gotten into those. So let's see if any of these use a model. Okay, yes, they do. Verify code view model, okay? So let's actually, there's the model. Oh, that's a view model. Where are the view models? Let me see where this one's at. This one is at models. Oh, okay. So this is interesting too. Oh, okay. So sorry, it's been a while since I've worked with these default projects. So as you can see, they're grouping all of their classes in a file called account_view_models.cs, and it has all of these classes here. Okay, so it has multiple classes in one file. Okay, that's a little bit different. Generally, you want to break these out, but actually, it's different. It's different strokes. I like breaking all of them out into individual classes so that you don't have one giant class. In enterprise development, things grow rather quickly, and trying to bundle stuff together can sometimes be a con. So verify code view model looks like you have a provider, a code, a return URL, and a remember browser and a remember me. Okay, so let's see if we can find where this stuff is. I have a feeling. Okay, so let's go to the account controller. Verify code is where this actually gets sent. Okay, so let's register. Oh, picky, are we? Okay. By the way, generally what you want to use now are something called passphrases. All right, so I actually did not see where verify code is in this application. Oh, there we go. Okay, and this is where actually it would get set up. So you would actually be able to set up two-factor authentication with this, which is where the verify code view model is. So that's probably the wrong one to look at here. But, oh, register view model. Yeah, duh. This one is way simpler. Okay, so let's go to the views here. Let's look at account and register. Okay, so this is the Razor syntax. Okay, don't concern yourself with what this is. What this is doing right here is this is a form post. Okay, so what a form post does is it calls the register method on account, and everything inside of these squiggly braces here, it's going to go ahead and send up to the method, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So in the account controller, register, and it takes a register view model. So as you'll see here in the Razor syntax, you're doing HTML label for, and then stuff from your view model. Your view model's right here. HTML text box for email. So if you look at, sorry, let me close this one. If you look at definition here, you can see that email is a property, and doing this syntax here is automatically going to create the text box here and take care of shuttling that information to here. It's almost kind of magic, okay? And we'll talk about how that magic works behind the scenes. But that's why I was saying that the Razor syntax is really crazy, okay? And then right here is a password for, or I'm sorry, it's a text box for the password, okay? And it's going to make sure that it is a text box for a password. So whenever you go in, you see the difference between this and this because it keeps those stars there, okay? And the way that you can see what all of these are, here, let's actually just create a new label here. Or, I'm sorry, a new form group, okay? At HTML, actually, we need to modify the view model first before we do anything. So let's go to the register view model. Let's make this also a required field. Let's not put any sort of, yeah, actually. Okay. Okay, so we're going to call this custom field. Okay. And the actual property will be, okay, getter and a setter. Okay, so the display name is what this label for is going to use here, this little text decoration here. This is the validation that will happen if you try to submit a form. If you try to submit a form without that being filled out, and it happens because we suggested that it is required. Or I'm sorry, actually, no, that is incorrect. No. Actually, let's get rid of this because that's actually going to only kick off if the string length isn't within a certain length. So actually ignore that. Let's not worry about putting a custom error on this one, okay? But we are going to make it required. And it will actually, if you don't specify the error message of it being required, it will actually just say that it's a required field and you must enter it. But as you can see here, this is very important because this label here, okay, and then the way that you have to add classes in here with the autofill kind of stinks a little. Okay. Okay, and then, yep. Okay. So we're going to bust Bootstrap here a little bit. Actually, no, we're not. That will be fine. So we'll do a text box for don't concern yourself too much with this lambda syntax here. We're going to talk about delegates and stuff way later. I mean, as much as it stinks, go ahead and think of this as magic for now. But all this is allowing for the Razor syntax to do is find on the view model up here that you're referencing and that you're passing in from the account controller, which is a new register view model, is that's allowing for us to grab the properties of that object, of the view model. Okay, so whenever we press play here, you're going to see a different register page, okay, because we just added in another field. We're not doing anything with that field, but we're just adding it in for the sake of understanding how models work. Okay. And it looks like I screwed something up with one of the classes. Yeah, I don't know what I did there to screw that up. But see, this is where sometimes the nuances of programming. Oh, I see what I did. I did not put a class on here. So I get for programming whenever I'm tired. Okay? And now whenever we refresh this, this should bump over. There we go. Okay? So let's see if this field's required even though we're not doing anything with it. See, look. And it's just going to say that the custom field is required because we haven't put a default error message on there. You can Google and figure out how to do that. I just don't feel like, burning time on it right now. But if we just put in one, since we don't have a length on it, it's going to let us register. Okay. And then boom, there we go. Hello, test out test. All right, so we bit off a lot here on MVC. So why don't you guys go ahead and play around with the custom MVC application a little bit. This is already going to be a week-long stuff. Please interact with me over the upcoming week and let me know what's going on with this stuff. I'm going to try to get another lesson out because, I slacked last week. I really apologize to everyone on that. But I'm going to get another lesson out, but this one's probably going to take a lot of time. So play around with it, try to figure out how MVC works, maybe try adding in another controller, maybe try adding in some more actions onto some of these existing controllers, maybe add in some new pages, just play around with a standard MVC application. Don't try to be too bold yet and go off and create your own MVC application because they're a lot more problematic than you'd think, and you're going to run into some runtime errors, and that's not going to be any fun. So okay, yeah, this concludes today's lesson. Sorry it's a little bit longer, but I just wanted to discuss some of this stuff. please reach out to me if you guys have any questions, and I look forward to hearing from you. Have a great week, guys.